Acts chapter 26, verse 22. Paul says this, having obtained therefore help of God, I continue unto this day, witnessing both to small and great, saying no other things than those which the prophets and Moses did say should come to pass. So it means that from the teachings of Paul, he's not saying anything different from what the prophets and Moses did say should come to pass. So it means that the prophets and Moses, they were saying something will come to pass. Look at verse 23. That Christ should what? And that he should be the first that should rise from the dead. So it means that in the writings of Moses, in the writings of the prophets, they were talking about Christ will suffer and what? Rise from the dead. The question now becomes, how do we read the writings of Moses? How do we read the writings of the prophets? Go to Genesis 1, read verse 27. God created man in his own image, right? In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Who is writing this? Moses. Do you remember Acts chapter 7 verse 22 shows us that Moses was well skilled in the wisdom of the Egyptians. So he says God created man in his image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. There are three personalities there. So there's a him, there's a male, there's a female. Who is the him? What did Jesus say? If you believe Moses, you will believe me, for he wrote of me. God's plan from time has been for man and woman to be found in him. Women are not an afterthought of God. The word image is the Hebrew word selem that speaks about a physical representation of an unseen being. Moses' use of image of God will be Moses' way to explain the visibility of God in humanity as a human being, and by extension, it will begin a new race. Moses wrote to a people for our learning. So you can't afford to pick scriptures out of context. We must sit where they sat to see what they saw and what they did not see. Why? Because Jesus now brings the full revelation of the person of God. So when Moses now tells you Adam fell into a deep sleep, what is the rib that God took out from Adam? Is that in the death and resurrection of Jesus, the woman is formed. That woman really is the church. Ephesians 5. So Adam fell into a deep sleep. Moses was writing about Jesus. That is, Jesus will die, and upon resurrection, the rib of his ribs will come out. That is the church. Jesus says, if you believe Moses, you believe what? Me, for Moses wrote of me. What did Paul say? Acts 26, 20, 22, having obtained the help of God, I continue therefore this day to say no other thing than the prophet and Moses did say should come to pass. Right? That Christ should suffer and be the first to rise from the dead. Let's see what happens in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3 to 5. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, whom the God of this world had blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel. When Paul says image of God, where is he teaching from? Genesis. Paul told us that he's not saying anything different from what Moses and the prophets said should come to pass, that Christ. So Paul makes us to see that when Moses said image of God, in the image of God created he him. Who is the image of God? Christ. Now look at verse 14. In whom we have what? Redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins. Verse 15. The firstborn of every creature. So the image of God is what? The person of Jesus. Galatians 3:26. For ye are all the children of God by faith. Now look at verse 28. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female. For ye are all one in him. Can we replace Christ with him? The hymn of Genesis 1:27. The gospel is the equality sign that mankind needs. So what is this verse saying? We don't recognize people in Christ based on their ethnicity. We don't recognize people in Christ based on their social status. So slave is as equal to the master in Christ. So the real balance that mankind is fighting for is found in Christ.